Hello, here's my Info 362 video. Here's my map of the world displaying location. I use circles of proportionate sizes as a way to exploit the visual potentials of locations. By having sizes of circles that correspond to the percentage of market shares by the continent, it portrays both geographic locations, or the where, as well as displaying the how much for each location. I decided to incorporate two displays that exploit the visual potentials of numbers. The first one, on the right side, is the projected wearable devices in an isotype, where each wearable device represents the amount of wearable devices sold globally. The smaller Fitbit symbol represents 500,000 units sold, and the larger represents 1 million units sold, and these can be shown on the bottom in symbolic form. For this, I wanted to show the trend of the device being sold over time. And within it, I also have a description of the statistics of where I got it from. On the left side, I also exploited the visual potential of numbers through a pie chart. Each figure represents how often a typical user will use a fitness app associated with wearable devices. So I have daily, never, rarely, monthly, occasionally, weekly, and several times daily, all in statistics. For this display, I wanted to focus on a breakdown of value in terms of the app usage. For my appearance display, I realized that the easiest way for people to understand what I'm talking about when referring to wearable technologies is to actually show them. Surprisingly, a lot of people don't actually know what I'm talking about when I say wearable technology, so having a visual actually being displayed makes it a lot easier for them to see it. So to exploit the visual potential of appearance, I created a display for the cost of wearable technologies ordered by cost. Each wearable technology contains a description, but more importantly, it has an image that helps people understand what kind of device that I'm talking about. So in my example, I have the Apple Watch, the Moto 360, the Pebble Time, the Fitbit Charge, the Sony smartwatch, the Nike FuelBand, and the Jawbone Up. These are the most popular fitness wearable technologies that are currently out right now. I decided to create a Venn diagram to show the visual potential of relationships. With this display, I want to show the relationship between 4 different wearable technology devices. 1. The Fitbit, 2. Apple Watch, 3. Jawbone, and 4. The Move Now. And while many understand that wearable devices tend to all be able to tell common basic things such as like time, there are many distinct features such as being waterproof or measuring heart rate that some but not all wearable devices have. And so I wanted to show through a Venn diagram the different features contained within each of these devices. For my time display, I wanted to incorporate both the timeline of the history of wearable technologies, starting from when it became heavily commercialized, which was roughly around 2011, and all the way up to 2014, which even though it's 2016, 2014 is where there's the most recent amount of data that was attainable, so that's where I ended it at. I thought it would be interesting also to incorporate appearance as well, as you can see through the wearable technology images, by including the wearable devices strapped onto the wrist of a mock wrist. I exploited the visual potential of time by creating a linear timeline showing how after each subsequent year more wearable devices are being produced. So as you can see in 2011 there's just one heavily commercialized product. 2012 there's also one. 2013 there's 2. 2014 there's 3. And if you look up to 2016, it keeps increasing. So I just wanted to show that pattern as well. I used encoding to demonstrate the market share of wearable devices by showing the percentage each continent had based on the magnitude of the circles. So if you can see, it's a little hard to see from these images, but I have 6 different circles, each representing different areas of the continent, and this is for the map on the left side. So as you can see, I have one for North America, Western Europe, Central Europe, Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And I removed Antarctica because there was obviously none. And so what I wanted to do was have different size circles correspond to the percentages. And so each percentage would be based on the magnitude of the circle. And I chose to create circles of different sizes to represent magnitude because one, it matched my visual models design. As you can see on the right side, it looks very similar. But also because other possible visual attributes, such as position or color, didn't really seem to work as smoothly as size would. And I wanted it to be as intuitive for the viewer as possible. And in this case, size seemed to be the most intuitive. And I also use encoding from a projected wearable sold, represented through my isotype, which is the display on the right, where time starts from the distance to the left, and number of devices is represented by the number of Fitbits sold. So as you can see, 2012 starts from the left, and then 2018 starts from the right, and then I have it where the blue is color coded to represent the projected, and I have the key at the top as well to show that blue is projected while the gray is current. I used color in my infographic to represent a cool, slick, and professional-like visual by using a monochromatic theme with white, dark gray, gray, and black, blue and light blue as my primary colors. I also thought emphasizing the dark gray, gray, and black emphasizes a technology-like feel, and given that wearable technologies are one of the trending type technologies, I figured it would be pretty appropriate to use these colors. And in general, I wanted to mimic the same colors that my model used, and my model tended to have largely gray, dark gray, and a little bit of whites. So for the most part, I wanted to mimic the same proportionate amount used in the model as well. The font I found to be most similar to my typography model was Myriad Hebrew. And this is the text that is used for pretty much all the labels and then the titles as well. The only difference that I have is in the actual infographic, at the very top of the title, it's actually in Calibri, but that was because it fit more of the title for the model as well. And as for the Myriad Hebrew for the rest of the rest of the labels, I really like this font because it works well with infographic colors, and I wanted to prioritize legibility over just pure aesthetics, as this is a technology related theme, so I wanted the font to look very organized and professional. By having the titles uppercased, I wanted to distinguish them from the standard paragraph text or labels, which just had the first letter capitalized and the rest were lowercase. I use precision labels in my map as well as the pie chart, so if you can see both the pie chart and the map provide actual statistical numbers to show the percentage of either app usage or the wearable device market share owned. In terms of identity labels, I use them quite often. For the pie chart, I have each percentage next to a label such as daily or weekly, monthly, etc. And then for the timeline, I have each of the years along with the name of the icons it is associated with. So if you can see like the Jawbone Up is labeled right next to the image of the Jawbone Up. For the maps, I identify them with the names of each continent. If you can look, North America is labeled right next to, or has a line and then it's labeled right next to the circle that's surrounding North America. I use annotations on the bottom for the projected wearable devices sold by explaining the current situation and the projected outcome of how many will be sold in the future. I use proximity association for my Venn diagram by putting the labels of each of the different devices right next to the particular circle it is associated with. Truthfully, I don't think I created visual hierarchy very well. I think I should have emphasized the timeline with the ARM and wearable devices more, because it was kind of the main component that I wanted to display prominently, and it was, in terms of design aspects, it was one that took the most time and was kind of the most aesthetically pleasing in my opinion. And I also feel that I should have made the map larger, as it is of the entire world, which requires a large space to visually see everything. And then on the other side, the graphs could have been a little smaller probably, in particular the pie chart and the Venn diagram. But I didn't want to decrease the size of the isotype as the current layout stood. Each of those three needed to be the same size to be geometrically well organized, and there's also the option of creating another potential image, but I couldn't really think of another display to come up with in time, so for Unity and Verity, it's pretty similar to my models. I use the same distinct colors throughout and multiple times. So for the blue color, I had three instances: my pie chart, Venn diagram, and map, where I used the blue as a circle to create both variety and unity. I also used a gray and black for each of my devices to try to enhance variety, but more importantly unity, because in reality the devices aren't actually just black and gray, but by compromising the accuracy and color, it enhances the unity of the infographic. I wanted to model the cheetah layout here, but I had difficulty due to the actual visuals that the model used. So in the end, it looked like a hybrid integration between my layout model as well as the color model that was shown previously. It was also hard to create a different layout similar to the cheetah model because it doesn't include a map, which is one of my main visuals. So for their model, it makes sense to have everything laid out in that way, but I had no place to put the map if I were to base mine similar to their model. But I still wanted to group together the graphs on statistics on one side, the right half, while having the heavy visuals such as the timeline and the map at the bottom, top and bottom respectively, as it will be the ones that draw the audience in. Since I had 6 different visuals that I wanted to represent, I decided to align each of them in a 3x2 matrix. The text and underlines are aligned to be the same, which is the same as my models. I also made sure to align the technology devices for the prices using the align tool to make sure they were horizontally spread evenly, and I also tried to align the distance between each of the lines and the text for the wearable technology timeline to be equal as well, to create consistency within the labels. So that's the end of my video. Thank you for watching.